Welcome to the Cloud Security Podcast by Google. Thanks for joining us today. Your hosts here are myself, Tim Peacock, the Senior PM for, a bunch of stuff in Google SecOps, and of course, Anton Chubakin, Senior Staff in Google Cloud's Office of the CISO. You can find and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as at our website, cloud.withgoogle.com/cloudsecurity/podcast. If you enjoy our content and want it delivered to you piping hot every Monday, please hit that subscribe button on your podcasting app of choice. Anton, we are doing our annual RSA recap. This is RSA 2026. Hard to believe we've been doing these since 2021. Is that right?
No, probably. Did we do? I mean, we should probably put all the RSA episodes in the show notes for the show.
Yes, we should.
But I definitely remember 23 fondly, and somehow I don't remember the 21. So either we didn't do it, or something else happened, or my memory is blanking.
It could be your memory.
I can be in denial. That's right.
Yes. Oh, yes. I would love to be in denial about how many RSAs I've been to, listeners. It is exhausting. But what did we see this year? Do we want to start with the AI framework we've developed?
Correct.
Yes,
and
okay.
so this spontaneously was born in my analyst brain and the team's PM brain, actually.
Yes.
These both brains are kind of essential for this one. Is that it started from me thinking about AI washing. We
saw a lot of AI washing.
Yeah, but AI washing is basically when people don't do AI, but they say they do it. It's
like greenwashing, but for AI.
And like cloud washing. Well, I guess, but for AI. Yeah, that's right. That's what you said.
Yeah.
But it's also one dot on a spectrum. And the spectrum may include things like adding things.
Oh, I was going to lay out the framework. I thought you were going to start here and we were going to go through.
I apologize.
No, go on. What's the least AI washed?
The least AI washed, actually, I think I'm reconsidering it, maybe more than one dimension, because there are people who don't use AI and don't say they use it, but they don't need it. For example, I saw a vendor making encrypted USB drives. There was no AI in their messaging. I have no idea if they use AI for anything beyond productivity, but if they don't, it's probably okay.
Yeah, I don't think you need AI for that.
Yeah, and so this to me is a vendor that doesn't say anything about AI, don't do it, and that's okay.
Okay.
But I suspect that if you are an AI stock vendor that doesn't use AI, you are in the fraud business, not in security business.
And we've seen those kinds of frauds happen where people say they're AI and they're not actually AI. And so, yes, that is a valid point on the framework to stay out of.
Yes. And also, I felt like there are people who used their 2021 marketing materials, and in a few spots, they spray painted and AI. So, for example, we secure identity for employees and contractors, and now there's a fat comma, and they say and agents. And they may do that. I'm not being negative on this necessarily, because I didn't ask if they actually do it and how much of that stuff they really do. But it feels like, to me, the term was kind of like AI touch-up, not AI washing. Team didn't like it. But it's the degree of AI use. And I suspect there's always people who use AI but don't say it.
Yeah. Why would they exist? Because they have a tasteful marketing team?
Your hypothesis was that they have a tasteful marketing team.
Having once been a tasteful marketer, I'd like to think there are others out there.
But also you can do better. And Wiz did better. Wiz has, actually, it's funny, they had the main booth that was called AI Agent Lab, and it was very AI. But if you walk outside, you would see AI-free zone. And by the way, I'm not joking. There was this big sign that says AI-free zone by Wiz as well.
Yes.
So if you think there's too much AI, you go to AI-free zone. And you
I heard they had AI-free donuts.
Oh, no, I missed one of those.
Human-made donuts. No AI in the donut. If you find an AI donut, tell your parents.
If you find a human donut, just eat it, I guess.
Just eat it. Yes.
So this is tasteful. Oh, how about that? I made it fun. Yeah.
Look at that. You made it fun, listeners.
But it's also on the same spectrum somewhere. People who, I also feel like there are people who pronounce themselves to be AI natives. So the orthogonal part of this framework is that you also can be AI tourist. You just landed in the land of AI and you started using AI for something beyond productivity use cases, maybe text summarization, right? That's a baby's first Gen AI use case. And in this case, if you say use AI, you'd be honest. But if you say you're AI native, you probably would be lying.
Yes.
So the reason all this rambling and sort of a semi-structured framework is that when you judge a vendor by the messaging, the marketing, the glossies, the description of their product, AI use may mean something or it may mean absolutely nothing. And you need to dig deep and you need to know what they're buying. It's very like 1990s kind of advice, maybe very classic advice, but unfortunately it didn't change.
It boils down to get good at buying. That's unfortunate.
Get good at buying, but get good at technical information about what you're buying, right? Because some of the stuff about, say, vendor that does AI introspection. There was in Innovation Sandbox, there was a vendor who claimed to be able to read the mind of a model and know what it's thinking, only for open weights models, by the way, before you ask. And that to me struck me as absolutely fascinating from the technology point of view. May or may not be useful in security. They think, yes, I don't know. But to understand how they do it, you have to have pretty deep AI knowledge.
Yes,
and actually
I would have no way of evaluating their claims
exactly.
personally.
Same. So it is interesting that...
I once put together a whole fake pitch about malware psychology. When I was at Shape, somebody reached out for a pitch, and we put together a whole fake story about malware psychology. And now there's literally a vendor claiming to read AI minds. That's amazing. 10 years later, folks.
Yes, and this also... we can lament the hype, we can whine about it, but ultimately, if somebody is here to understand what vendor does, the genuine use of AI in their product and what they say about AI are almost completely disconnected. This to me is
for sure.
Insight. And I'm going to cry a little bit, but even vendors who are in AI SOC land may genuinely not use AI for anything systematic. This to me is kind of
at least
depressing.
Not to the extent they claim.
Or not to the extent a reasonable non-AI savvy buyer would understand.
Yes.
So, and this to me is, I think we explored enough, but I feel like it's also hugely interesting.
I want to talk about, which is the risk that was pointed out to me by a dear friend on the floor, that many of today's vendors are likely to be completely run over by the AI labs.
So this is a question that gave me pretty strong flashbacks to some time when some big CEO honcho of some company said, RSA is over because in the next couple of years, 3-4 security vendors, large security vendors, including his company, presumably, would acquire all the startups and the consolidation would happen and would be done.
And yet it hasn't.
Nothing even remotely similar happened. And so consolidation in security is not a thing. Well, it's consolidating, but never consolidated. I think that's another term. So the first thought I had when you said, somebody believes AI vendors would own all of security, is this reaction like, no, because general principle.
How the industry works.
Yes, but
at the same time, surely you see the capabilities of the models coming along. Surely you see how if a company adopted these tools natively, you maybe don't need a vulnerability scanner if you can run Claude on every endpoint.
Tim prodded me for a counterexample. And I said, oh yeah, sure, here's counterexample.
Windows 2000.
I was making the counterexample. I thought, that's not a good counterexample. So I tried again. And I kind of failed again. And I tried for the third time, and the third time was actually even worse. So I philosophically disagree with that, but I don't have good arguments. The only direction for good argument would be this. I feel like there's a lot of enterprise knowledge that bad security vendors also don't have, but good security vendors do have that.
Yes, and what's funny is that's exactly what the other guy standing next to him pointed out was this actually raises the value for a vendor of knowing what bars to go to at RSA to find the CISOs that are hanging out and pitch to them in person. And so perhaps industry veterans listening to the show, your knowledge of where to get a drink at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday at RSA week has become more valuable, even though Gemini, Anthropic, OpenAI have a real risk of coming for our market.
But the other side argument, which is kind of a spin out from this argument, connected to people debating the value of the analyst firms, like my former employer, Gartner, when people say, look, stock of such and such analyst firm has decreased because people assume that they can just go to quote unquote ChatGPT and ask everything they would ask Gartner.
Yes.
And the odd part is there is definitely a category of questions that people ask analysts that can be answered by an LLM with a sufficient degree of utility. So it's there. But the problem is, most deeper questions rely on large analyst firm knowledge base, fact base,
yes,
and said, which isn't public, and you can't train your AI on that because the company has that, but a generally smart machine won't have that. So I don't know how to counter that.
Is analyst fact-based just a nice way of saying all of the gossip the analysts have collected during their time talking to big companies?
Correct, but integrated and aggregated. And aggregated.
You had a gossip management system, a GMS.
Essentially, yes.
That's
but
amazing.
It is called inquiry data, and that means basically what you've heard during the inquiry from a client, questions, answers, context. And this isn't,
that's a nice way of putting it.
Isn't public. And I feel like if you have a robot answering without knowing this, no matter how smart, it would often enough answer wrong.
Yes, it would not have the rument, as some people like to call
Correct. And so in that sense, to me, analysts may be kind of diminished, but they would survive. So that brings back to the...
that brings back to the security industry. It might be diminished, but will survive.
Yes, the diminished part is there because deep in my heart, the static analysis... Yeah, sorry guys. I'm not an AppSec person, and you've seen me say...
We know he's not an AppSec person.
I prefaced some blog and mentioned AppSec by saying this, but static analysis just seems perfect for LLMs.
Yes.
And I don't see how, quote-unquote, secret enterprise knowledge would help you tell good code from bad code. So,
or tell it better.
I've seen some SAST vendors, static analysis security vendors, make passionate arguments on, well, Twitter or where else, that they do matter despite, what do we call it, cloud security, whatever it was, the thing, right?
Yeah. Or from Google, Deep Sleep.
Yep. And I don't believe them. They're not credible to me. But that's SAST is just a uniquely clear example where AI can make a huge dent or possibly decimate it. SOC,
surely there are other exammes, like a firewall rule analysis tool. Why do I need a specialized tool to analyze firewall rules when I could use Gemini code?
Policy writing, a lot of IAM decisions, but
why do I need a PAM tool anymore?
But
put the justification into the chatbot. Let it decide.
And people do that, by the way. Yeah. And there's also a degree of automation around that. I think that AI in a SOC has areas that are very much that way, and there are also areas which, to me, are not that way. So, for example, building detection rules in a way that matches your enterprise realities implies deep degree of knowledge of that enterprise reality. So you don't have P on every custom written app that you build.
But surely the agent will figure that out during the triage phase, feed that back upstream, and voila, a week later, you don't have those false positives anymore.
Unless it uses tribal knowledge that's in human heads, not in machines. And I think that if what you do in security relies on copious chunk of tribal knowledge, a super intelligent chatbot would not get you soon. Later on, who knows? Maybe they build like an interview bot, right? Which can go talk to humans, collect the data, structure it, organize it.
That's trivial to send a Slack or a Google chat to somebody and say, hey, did you really mean to run PowerShell just now?
Yeah, and also ask you like why and a few other things, and then analyze the data in the context. So
that sounds pretty easy to me, frankly.
Yes, but it may be all information you need or not. So
so AI, maybe definitely in the industry, maybe not. I want to switch it slightly and talk about AI hacking.
And yes, AI hacking, the pen testing, red teaming, and no, I'm not using the term synonymously, I'm using them in aggregate. AI hacking, AI pen testing, AI red teaming. Yes. And this is, of course, using AI for all of those, not testing AI. Has been on an upswing. And I've met people who are like huge skeptics. They say that if there's so many vendors, why can't I just code the same red teaming framework? That's one counter argument against the too many vendors. There's always an argument about pen testing and red teaming that the top shelf firms would crawl through your air ducts to get to your secrets, and I don't see robots crawling through my air ducts. Lawyer cats, maybe. Robots.
But so the scary thing to me is not just the red teaming and the pen testing, and we use those terms in the aggregate not to mean the same thing, but attacks powered by AI, like actual adversaries.
Like a bad guy with AI.
A bad guy with AI, or just a bad AI.
And a bad guy with AI or a bad AI. These are actually two actors. Excellent point.
Those are two different actors. And we're seeing those supply chain compromises this week, literally.
Yeah.
With companies getting their secrets dumped, their code dumped. Mm-hmm. I heard that a former U.S. security leader is very pessimistic about our prospects over the next 6 months in the wave of AI attacks. I'm very pessimistic about that. And so do you have anything to cheer me up about our future? Or are you also in the Heather Adkins, Bruce Schneier, Gaudy Evron, AI is eating our lunches and we haven't even realized it?
This is an interesting one. And I think that you just referred people to at least 2 of the past episodes we've done on this topic. And maybe I'm weird, but I'm not losing sleep over bad guy with AI.
Really?
And for sure not over bad AI.
Say more about why.
The first argument starts with, if your security is bad before AI,
it's bad afterwards too.
Chris Hoff had a line back in the day, like if your on-prem security is bad, the cloud security would not change it. And I feel like if enough people have suffered from like more traditional non-AI powered ransomware, so for them, they lose today. And the fact that they lose faster with AI is not a huge change. Sure, it would lead to scaling. More of those people would lose. Somebody had luck-based security in 2005. They were okay because, well, luck. If attackers scale attacks with AI, luck-based security would be dead, would be gone. You can't have luck-based security.
Yes, luck-based security goes away very quickly.
This is and interest in observation.
Yes.
And another reason.
Not just AI that's faster. What was the stat in the M-Trends report? That it's a now 30-second handoff between initial access brokers and ransomware gangs?
Yeah, because
Everything
they machine. Yeah, this is like the modern
Attacker
digital
supply chain.
business in the attacker side. It's like they modernized the business using computers and stuff, right?
Who would have seen that one coming, listeners? Modernizing a business with computers and stuff. Crazy. But again, that's back to the pessimism, and we're all going to be losing for a while as an industry.
I mean, to me, a lot of fundamentals produce an answer, because ultimately, if you don't have cloud misconfigurations, no amount of AI would exploit your cloud misconfiguration. And if your defenses against misconfigured systems, instances, containers are robust and they become better, whether AI is helping magic or unicorns or whatever else, it doesn't matter that the bad guy has AI. Your stuff is done well. Heather brought up an example about the applications being coded more securely. She meant with the help of AI.
Yes.
But even if you do it by magic, if your app has no obvious exploitable holes, then it doesn't matter that the bad guy has AI. There's nothing to find.
You're secure. You're secure.
Yeah, there's nothing to find. I mean, so to me, if we do things well, we would end up in a good spot. That's why I'm not losing sleep.
Getting the fundamentals right is a very Google answer to this problem.
Answer. Yes,
like a shockingly Google answer, because
all
of our How Google Does It episodes reveal there's no magic.
In DNR, there is.
Okay, there's mostly no magic, but getting the fundamentals right produces magical outcomes.
Yes. I mean, the VM episode 109 is basically an episode when I was at the end, I was saying, hey, but wait, where is the magic? Because I was conditioned by the DNR discussions when people whip out some magical piece of tech and everybody goes, whoa, no way. And in the VM episode, the guest basically said, that's what we do. And I'm like, that's what everybody should do. And I think she said, but guess what? We actually do it. And everybody else, guess what? actually doesn't. On that somewhat humorous and somewhat goofy note, I want to switch to secure AI.
Okay.
Not only from bad guy with AI, not only from bad AI, but also from bad guy without AI.
Okay.
And I feel like last year, and in the similar recap, I was lamenting that AI for security was overpowering in terms of vendors, presentations, securing AI. I was almost sad there was not enough security for AI. I did some discussion about shadow AI and stuff, but I was surprised. This year, I feel like securing agent identity for agents, all this stuff is there. I think people do data security for AI world, and this I'm happy to see that. And I was right that it would come, and it did come.
And did it come from new vendors, or did it come from old vendors changing their messaging, or old vendors changing their products? And those last two are different options.
My suspicion is that you would not like my answer, but the answer is all of them.
That's a very analyst answer.
Yeah, because I've seen startups that do things which, in my mind, aren't very startup-y, like, say, new identity system to support agents doing work at enterprise, which I feel like it's very difficult for somebody who doesn't own anything called Active Directory to make an impact. But data security may be a little more clear. Like there was some what I would call an AI-powered DLP that is to me quite credible. Like and
I mean not literally because I don't buy things, but I'd buy the argument.
Yeah, and I think that securing AI, securing the supply chain for AI, securing training data, kind of sort of know what to do. And some of the tech for this is coming from both startups, and startups can deliver.
Yes,
and also large companies. I mean, we probably have some stuff in our back pockets, deep pockets, whatever, that does some amazing stuff for us internally, and it can become a product. Who knows? And so to me, big companies here may be a credible player. I would put it this way. Like you don't assume that the big, bad, slow, small, tiny, fast. I don't think that works here. I feel like the big and fast, Google's pretty fast these days, can be actually quite successful. I mean, we are putting our Google hats very deeply in our heads, but it's also a fact.
Yes, and listeners, we try not to wear our Google hats too obviously.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing can move.
It turns out. It turns out when it has to. I want to talk about what we were calling the whiz effect that we saw on the show floor. We saw a lot of booth listeners that, unlike previous years, were not covered in messaging buzzwords. For a long time, you walk the RSA floor and you are assaulted by things that say Zero Trust, XDR. And I think I only saw one booth of Zero Trust, one booth of XDR. But this year, there were a number of booths that were information free and just whimsical, which really mirrors the Wiz booth strategy. Unfortunately, the most whimsical booth I saw, I have no idea what the company does.
Even now, we 2 days later, we still don't know what they do.
We haven't figured it out.
Yeah. So whimsical booths are fun, and they may draw a crowd. And unless people already know you because you're called Wiz, and you are worth $32 billion, I kind of have to mention this, your whimsical booth strategy may not succeed. Your booth would be remembered, but not your message.
Right.
I mean, last year it was goats. Somebody had goats. Last year,
I didn't see any.
I think the goats. Yeah, but I've seen the
there was some backlash to the goats. Did you see the backlash last year?
I've seen the backlash, and so no goats this year.
Yeah,
but this year there was like UFC fighters or whatever.
Yeah,
they were,
I saw the UFC fighters. I saw superheroes. No Vikings. Do you remember all the Vikings that used to walk around?
Yes, but the fighters, I don't know what company it was and why it matters.
But there were other Wiz effects on booths as well. There was a lot of softness to booths that I hadn't seen in the past. A lot of purples and pinks in booths that I hadn't seen in the past. And so, just personally, I appreciate that our industry has moved away, and I say this ironically, in an all-black room, from all-black messaging.
Yes, correct. And then, of course, from other distortions of the past that are kind of fortunately gone.
Yes.
As far as keywords and buzzwords, one of the things we wanted to mention is that some of the vendors, there were two types of vendors that surprised me. And this is very broad, and this is very RSA recappy, and probably isn't for a normal podcast. There are vendors whose absolute peak was when Tim was in kindergarten. I'm thinking of one particular firewall vendor.
Yes.
I remain nameless in this particular case, but it was like really cool when Marcus Random was younger. He just invented a firewall. It was amazing. I was in school at the time, probably. And I mean, they have a large booth. And when you ask on the street, do people use them? Presumably your friends and my friends will say no, but clearly somebody does, which led me down to the path of, if you are, say, antivirus or a firewall vendor number 6.
You still have a market.
You think it's insane, but you're on the list. You're number 6.
Yeah.
Somebody buys you. Somebody pays you hard-earned money to buy the firewall from the 6th best firewall vendor.
Yes.
Or antivirus vendor or data governance
But we've
vendor.
observed this for years, that the worst vendors are still vendors.
Correct. But then there is the promised AI disruption. We are speaking from Bay Area, where everybody thinks AGI by the end of the week, or if you don't adopt AI, competitive with AI without compete you and you die.
Yes.
But vendors whose heyday was in the mid-2000s, if not early 2000s, are alive and well. And I'm talking about literally antivirus and firewall.
Yeah. And what I think is so interesting, and this is my negativity is about to come out.
You don't have it.
I do. I've spent enough time with Anton listeners that I've developed some negativity.
Say that.
Is if you're walking the show floor as a low information buyer, you can't tell the difference between number 6 and number 1, except maybe by size of booth. But even number 6 had a pretty big booth. And so I have a lot of negativity about the information value of spending time at RSA. I think for the informed buyer, you already know the answer. And for the uninformed buyer, you can't possibly arrive at the answer from walking around the show floor. And so I really have gotten to the point where I question the value at all of the show floor, except, of course, to give you and me something to talk about every year.
Yes. I feel like low information density is there. And I have a fear that it's lower than some past years. Because I did...
because of AI watching?
I actually don't know, but there was I did try this experiment a couple of RSAs ago when I would look at the booth like super quickly and do I know what they do? Like if I know the vendor name, I mean, if I look at the vendor I know, I'd be like, oh yeah, obviously they do X because, well, they're a well-known vendor for X.
Right.
But then I look at the booth and say, the booth says
there's no
Y,
mention of X.
Or the booth says Y, or the booth doesn't say anything.
Booth says negative X.
Or it just gives general, like, we stop hackers from hacking. Who was it that Lampunian people on LinkedIn about that? And
Augusto Barros.
What do you actually
former guest on the show
do when you say we stop hackers from hacking, or we stop 0 days, or we stop
we stop 0 days. So good.
Yeah. And I feel like this is below the low information density. This kind of deceptiveness, presumably.
Negative information
density. It's a negative information density. Yes. So I don't think AI is to blame. I think it's humans.
Well, that's a cheery take. We had a discussion about the signaling effect of an open ecosystem versus a closed ecosystem.
That is a really fun one. And it's an odd thought that I had. So, and then Tim immediately
thoughts?
This is more odd than my normal thoughts.
Go on.
So we're walking past the booth of some vendor, and they say, we have an open security data lake, open detection, open something. And I thought, and I had this weird cynical reaction is that the only reason they say open, because they kind of suck. And they're number 3 compared to a closed guy. And instead of saying, we are better, they say, we are open. And so it is not, I'm not against openness, open source. And I'm just, in this case, I sense that the promoting openness was a signal that they can't promote goodness. And instead of saying, no, we'll beat them in the fight, we're better, they say, they're proprietary, they're bad. We are open. But if somebody says, whose works better?
They would lose.
Be like, yeah, it's the other guy. Like, that's my fear. And I mean, please save me because I don't want to have this negative stigma about openness.
Well, I think openness has inherent value.
Positive value.
Strongly positive value from openness. And I think there's also possibly a signaling effect of openness is, I'm so confident in my value, I will choose to be open. And there's perhaps a defensiveness that comes from being closed of, don't look too close, or I won't play with them because I want you to stay inside my garden, because if you leave my garden, you might see how nice it is outside.
I really don't want to bring up the open IDS rules, open SIM rules.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I mean,
sorry. I'm getting a phone call from the 1990s. They want their argument back.
No, I got beat up by your bosses for that argument at one point. So, so I'm not sure. Gently.
We only beat people very gently.
Well, this is Google, right?
This is Google. Obviously. You have to beat them with a smile on your face.
Yes. And I think like the openness in terms of detection content is a clear positive. Like, I don't think the proprietary detection rules implies they're better.
No, I think it implies strongly that you're trying to hide something.
That's pushing it. I think it's more nuanced because ultimately nobody demands to see the antivirus rules from an antivirus vendor.
Strange.
But people do demand it from SIM.
They maybe should.
Maybe they should. And they would say it's all ML, so you can't see it. So it's a little, this is like a 2010s argument.
Yes, you can look inside the box. The contents are black.
Yeah, there's maybe a Schrödinger cat in there.
Well, let's not kill any cats by opening boxes. Do we have other RSA recap things, or are we nearing the end of the show?
I think we are kind of towards the end, but I think that the repeated theme from all past RSAs is that the old is alive.
The old is alive.
Is very
the dream of the 90s is alive.
The dream of the 90s is alive. And I feel like there's people who come and basically look how their favorite vendor of, firewall's doing, and they confirm that they're doing okay. And the whole AI thing just passes them by. I have no idea how it works. But I had a chat with somebody before the recording of the show, and they said there are actual buyers who are kind of largely ignorant of this whole disruption due to AI. And I said, no way. And he said, yeah, look around. There are people who are in panic. There are people who are kind of in this more or less coping mode, but there are people who actually are unaware that all of it is going on.
Yes.
Basically say this AI is a toy. This is utterly insane. It is utterly insane, but it does happen.
So,
I mean, I got here in a Waymo. It's not a toy.
And I think your first Waymo was either last year or the year before coming here.
Here. That's right. Yes.
So two thoughts on Disrupt. One, I think I will bet today that in 5 years, RSA looks markedly different.
5 years.
In 5 years,
okay,
the IAM space and the SIM space will be completely different.
I would do that because to me, 5 is long term. By today's standards, 5 is long term. And if you say 1 and 2, we can debate. 5, I would just agree.
Okay, 5, you just agree. That's too bad.
This is RSA 2031?
Yes, RSA 2031. Listeners, let's see if we're still hearing RSA 2031. But 2, I think there's one more thing on disruption, which is a growing acknowledgement that it's necessary for companies to disrupt adversaries. This was a topic that Sandra brought up.
Yes, Sandra. Yes.
So can we talk about that just briefly?
Yes. When I saw the announcement, I thought, people have been doing this for a bit, right? For a while. I mean, notable security vendors do try to take the fight to the attacker. But I think that nobody with our powers have tried it before.
And we've started to do disruptions. Yes. And there have been some big takedowns that Google has organized. Mm-hmm. The other space where I personally would love to see this is against the pig butchering scams. I had a long conversation with someone about that this week, and the scale of these attacks is growing. The regulatory pressure, particularly in some of the ASEAN countries, is growing. And so I think we will see more active measures there as well.
What's the polite term for big butchering scams? There's some kind of a big butchering scam is a polite term. Okay,
I think that's the...
Yeah, I don't recall. There was some kind of a discussion.
Is there a nicer way to say that, listeners? You should let us know in the comments.
Whale butchering?
Well,
No, I think it's
that's
okay.
that's
Yeah, ignore
that's
me.
different.
Yeah, I think that's
Yes,
different.
we will
Yes.
ignore Anton on
Yes.
that one. So I guess traditional closing questions then. Do you have recommended reading? And do you have a piece of advice to help people next year actually notice that the AI wave is happening?
Okay, so I think we mentioned a whole bunch of episodes and obviously past recaps. I think these are useful listening.
The Run Sybil episode, the Heather episode, the Bruce episode, those are
And
all
the
great.
RSA recaps from past years may be surprisingly cathartic.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to go listen to those myself,
I'm
listeners.
going to
and see
rely on
where
my
we-
vibe coded app to do it. So sorry, I mean, no, I feel like I need the RSA pondering mode to be coded. I think that's a really good idea.
Okay, that's a good idea.
So
Recommended reading?
recommended the tip.
The tip.
Reading, I think, is the what
Is
we
the
discussed.
episodes.
Yes. The tip is this: if you show up at RSA and you talk to vendors, demand that they bring data. It is uncannily similar to my advice from last year, but it was contextualized to AI. So this year, I would apply it to everything with AI. If you say AI makes it better, you gotta show the numbers. If you don't show the numbers, people must assume you are not credible and you're essentially lying. I'm sorry, vendors. We're friends. We are sort of a vendor to bring the data. If you say AI helps IAM, give me the numbers. AI helps firewalls, give me the numbers. AI powers your AV, give me the numbers. AI SOC, give me the numbers. I'm sorry, but like
I did see a firewall vendor who I won't name say AI firewalls at the top of their booth. And I really wanted to know what that was about.
Sure.
I had better things to do than find out.
This is the perfect vendor to ask, okay, so give me the numbers. Show how AI helped you firewall.
Yes.
They may have an answer. I don't want to lampoon them because it's possible there's firewall rule analysis for a rule stack of 50,000 rules. Perfect.
Which nobody ever wants to touch.
Yeah, but the AI may figure it out. So I'm kind of sort of positive on this.
Yeah, could be.
But you gotta bring numbers. Bring the numbers, bring the data, bring proof. Do not have, we have this customer who kind of is happy because we bribed them and that's why we have ROI. Get out of town. Sorry. You need to bring data, solid metrics, how AI improved whatever you do.
I agree with that advice.
Perfect. That worked well.
Okay. My tip and my reading is to check out the M-Trends report, the CrowdStrike report, and did the Verizon report come out this week?
No, I don't think so.
Last year it came out this week. So whenever it does come out, check that out as well.
And Cloud Threat Horizons as well. Ours, right?
Yeah. Not just the M-Trends, but also the Cloud Threat Horizons. And with that, listeners, thank you very much for joining us for this year's RSA Recap. And now we are at time. Thank you very much for listening and, of course, for subscribing. Please subscribe so you can get new episodes piping hot. And if you love our content, please drop us a review on your platform of choice.
You can find this podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, you can find us on our website, cloud.withgoogle.com/cloudsecurity/podcasts. You can argue with us on the Google Cloud Security Community site, googlecloudcommunity.com.
You can follow us on x.com/cloudsecpodcast, tweet at us, email us, argue with us, and if we like or hate what we hear, we can invite you to the next episode.
See you on the next episode of the Cloud Security Podcast by Google.